Hey all, it's Carter here with CB Home Solutions, and in today's video we are going over how cash home buyers determine an offer price and see if it'll work out for you in your specific scenario or situation. So before I get into it, if we can provide you an offer on your particular property, feel free to call us at 920-521-8000, but let's jump into this video. So first things first, prior to us even coming out to visit the property, normally what we do is we look at how much is the house worth in its perfect condition. This means it's going to have new carpet, new paint, completely updated, and as we all know, houses that are updated are generally worth more than houses that are not updated. So with that being said, we take it to not necessarily the extreme, but we make our houses nice. We do tiled showers, we do quartz countertops, we paint anything that needs to be painted, we replace flooring. We do all of those things just to bring a high quality product back to the market, whether it's on the resale side or on the rental side. So that's generally what the overview is. But how we determine what your house is worth, we'll jump onto my computer quick, and then I'll break that down in a little bit more detail for you. So we are on my computer and we're going to run through a very quick example of a property that we just purchased, how we ran the numbers specifically on that purchase. So let's jump in on, as you can see on my screen, so this is what you call the multiple listing service. This is the same thing that real estate agents have access to on their side. And I have a real estate license, so everything that I am showing you is part of that process, part of that system. That's why we can provide owners such as yourself the most accurate numbers, data, information, so on and so forth. So we just picked up a property at 1711 Michigan Street in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It is a 3-bed, 1-bath ranch, about 1,000 square feet. So now what I am doing on here, so you understand the concept, is I am doing a map search. You can see kind of the flag of where the house is located. And then I do a radius around that to target a similar neighborhood to show like what sold houses have went for, so I can get an idea on a value or an idea on a range of values. So I did this circle here. Let's go back. Whoop, I do not want to go back to that. I want to explain things a little bit more. I did both active listings and houses that have sold in the past, and I went back roughly about 6 months from the time of this recording. And then I'm only targeting like-kind properties, which are other one-story houses, which would make sense, and houses that are within a similar amount of square footage, so the design, the layout's generally the same. This is what we do prior to ever coming out to take a look at your property in person. And this is essentially what online real estate apps might be doing autonomously based upon property data. If the property is sold in the past, such as Realtor.com, Zillow, so on and so forth, they give you listing price estimates if the house is in perfect like new condition. So let's do a quick search and we can get an idea on what similar houses are going for. So I can see here that similar in our house that we bought, it was a 1950s, 1960s build. So if I look at year built right in this column, it looks like we have one here, 65, 55. We had one that sold for 130, that seems like an oddball compared to everything else. It must have needed some sort of work or TLC. But then we have these other ones. If we look at these, we'll look at these three. So we got 200, 230, 268. This one's quite a bit newer, even though it is on Michigan Street as well. But a 2001 build is not necessarily comparable to a 1950s, 1960s build. So it honestly put the most weight on these two properties in addition to this one, even though it has not sold yet. So these are probably the three most similar properties. So they're going 230, 200, 230. If I average it out, so I'm going to add all three of these up, and I'm just pulling up my calculator on my phone. So 230 plus 230 plus 200 divided by 3, that gives me an average value of $220,000. Now that is what I would determine my completed value to be, $220,000. So it's the law of averages on our side. And then it takes us into the rest of this video where I explain how we end up at the offer price. So now that you saw how we actually determine what your house is worth by using comparable sales and comparing it to other houses that are currently listed on the market or sold in the recent past, the next thing we have to jump into is how much work does your property need? Like, how much are we gonna have to stick into it to get it up to that 2024 or 2025 like new condition? And with all that being said, generally speaking, we have a lot of contractors that work directly for us or that we have good relationships with. I shouldn't say they work for us, but they work with us. Now, because we have frequency of use, generally speaking, we get a little bit better pricing than the average homeowner who will only use them once or twice in their lifetime. With us, they're continually working on our projects. They might give us a little bit of discount pricing, so to say, so we can remodel a property for cheaper than the average homeowner. Now, we're not always there in person ourselves, swinging the hammer, doing things, so of course we have to pay labor costs. But generally speaking, if you were to pay labor costs and we were to pay labor costs, our labor rates are significantly cheaper than the average person. But that is what we have to calculate next. So we take that maximum dollar amount that we think it's going to be worth, we subtract off how much do we need to stick into the property, and then the last thing that I want to go over is how much do we need to make. So of course we are a company. We need to make a profit margin to stay in business. Now this isn't something that we need to make a huge profit margin, but we need to make something reasonable, at least on our side, to consider doing the job or purchasing your property or whatever the scenario might be. So how we determine this? Of course, if the house doesn't need as much work, do we need to make as much money? Of course not. If the house needs a ridiculous amount of work, if it needs a roof, windows, siding, foundation work, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, paint, all of these things, we are going to have a higher return on investment because the risk or the perceived risk with the job site is that much larger. Now, if we're doing a smaller remodel, the risk is a lot less. We don't have as many unknowns and we can offer you a more competitive price. So with all of that being said, let's run through some numbers really quick. So say your house is worth $200,000 after repairing it. If it's worth $200,000 and maybe in its current condition it might be worth $175,000 or $160,000 or maybe even less than that, depending upon the severity of the remodel needed. But we'll say it's worth $200,000 just for example purposes. Now, how much do we need to stick into the property? If you were to do the remodel or hire someone to do the remodel, if you need a roof or windows or siding, you could be looking at upwards of $30,000 or $40,000 just in those items alone. Versus us, we might only spend $20,000 or $15,000 to repair those exact same things, so we can build in a profit margin through the remodel process and ultimately offer you a more competitive price. And then lastly, how much do we need to make on it? So we said $200,000, say $50,000 in remodeling or $20,000 in remodeling. So then I take $200,000 minus $20,000 minus a margin, and generally speaking, we like to make between 10 to 15% on the remodels that we do. So this gives you at least a ballpark range of where we might be at. And if you want a more accurate number or you're curious to see what we can do, of course we can help you with the moving process. There's no additional fees or commissions or anything like that that you need to pay when you sell it directly to us because we are the end buyer. And along with that, you don't need to worry about cleaning stuff out. You don't need to worry about repairing certain things because we take care of all of that for you, which means it's extremely convenient. You know a for sure time frame that you can sell, move into the next place, rent the next house, buy the next house. So it is very, very simple. Of course, you're not going to get as high of a dollar amount as you might if you list it for sale or do some of the repairs yourself. But the convenience factor might outweigh that, and that's why it might be a great choice for you as a property owner. So again, if you have interest in selling, feel free to call us on this number. You'll get either myself or Joe here in the office, 920-521-8000. That's a direct line to us. If you have any questions, if you're curious or wondering about something, check out the other resources down below where we break down the average remodeling costs for kitchens, bathrooms, roofs, siding, miscellaneous stuff like that. And feel free to reach out with questions. We're here to help. We're here to be a resource if at all possible. And I look forward to talking to you soon.